It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, we're joined by Jim from Safe-Xtract to talk about the world's finest recovery gear, where you can get it, and all of the amazing resources that they have on offer. And now, without delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Beres, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at theberescollection.com or follow us on Instagram at theberescollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I am the galvanized trim to Steven's carbon fiber trim package. I'm the durable finish of podcasting, Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Big show this week. Oh man, have we got a fun guest this week? We've got Jim from Safe-Xtract. We're going to talk about all their fantastic little doodles and wobbles and woozles, and holy moly, do they have some cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to talking to Jim. He's a nice guy. So
this is going to be great. I have a ton of questions about rigging and rigging equipment. As you know, everything I own is from at least half a century ago. So
it's like a sex dungeon, except it's all rigging gear. It's weird.
Is it really?
Don't
get your hopes up.
1 degree of separation. So what's happening in the world of Rover news before we go down that path?
I'm going to build. So, and some pretty big things are happening, but which we don't have a ton of time to explore.
Right.
Fully,
we have to get to the next show.
We're going to talk more about it, but Classic Works V8 soft top. Pretty cool.
Man, I can't wait. That was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And
I've been doing hardtops for a while.
Yeah, we knew a little bit about this, and man, it just gets one step closer to my NAS 90 Classic Works edition. Can't wait.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
NAS 90 Reborn.
And then the Thai military is apparently adopting some Land Rovers that the number of them is unclear. Right. Some new Land Rover Defenders into the Thai military.
New Land Rover Defenders. That's kind of crazy.
They're like steel wheels and like drab green, and the specification otherwise is kind of unclear. It's a little vague in the article I read about it. But
they have the ventilated seats.
They have at least one.
They got one. They got one. The Thai military. It has. It's delicious. So it's fantastic.
I think this might be the first official military new Land Rover Defender.
I think so too. There's been some prototypes at military shows.
I've seen some kind of dressed up like that, but this is the one. It's got the ladder on the side. Get the folding ladder that you love so much.
What about the spice rack? I
didn't see those
spice rack full of grenades or something.
It's got the grill guard. It's got a winch. It's got some accessories, steel wheels, of course. And
you have to have that.
Just totally drab green. No.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that could also just be like a soccer player that has that, the same spec, really,
Could be.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a spy photo, and it's unrelated to the Thai military. That part's made up.
It's just completely made up. It's just that's just Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Somebody went for Thai food, and then it went through a game of telephone.
It was just a whole thing. And by the time we got out of it, Duarte isn't. Fantastic.
This is kind of crazy, and I don't know that this is necessarily huge news, but it's very fascinating to me anyway.
Yeah.
The nameplate Santana is being revived for a new vehicle. And I guess this is a joint venture between Nissan and a Chinese manufacturer to build a new crew cab partial hybrid vehicle in the European market. So,
and will it be made in Spain like the Santana?
It's unclear whether it actually be made in Spain, but it definitely has a Spanish connection with the Santana name. So
interesting.
They have bought the rights to use the Santana name. So for those of you who don't know, Land Rovers have been made in Spain by the Santana company, Santana Metallurgica de Santana, I think.
Something like that.
And they started in 1958. And they stopped in 2011.
Yeah, there was absurdly long. They built cars there but essentially kept building a Series 3 Defender hybrid for a long time.
I think that stopped. The relationship with Land Rover stopped in maybe 2007, and then they sort of revived it in 2011 with an Iveco.
Yeah, the Iveco,
Iveco Massif sort of Santana combo. But at any rate, new Santana. So kind of crazy.
That's pretty cool. There's a lot of new stuff coming out. I mean, we almost got to do a whole episode just on we got to talk about the Slate truck. We got to talk about so many cool things coming out. But speaking of cool things, we're going to get Jim dialed up here on the show and talk about what are some very, very cool things in the Safe-Xtract line of products. So let's get him on.
I'm excited about this. Let's go.
All right. Well, we are here with a very anticipated on Iconized Parts guest, none other than Jim Geroux from Safe-Xtract. And, for those of you who don't know about Safe-Xtract, imagine yourself the absolute nicest recovery gear you've ever seen in your entire life. And that's what Jim and Chris provide. And we're thrilled to have you here, Jim. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
So let's talk for a moment, for those people who don't know, about Safe-Xtract. Give us the elevator pitch. Why should I fall in love as Ike and I have with Safe-Xtract?
Well, so this is your opportunity to actually own military-grade, developed for the military recovery products. There is only one version, and it is only military-grade. It's the same stuff that we sell to special forces. It's the same stuff that we sell to government agencies. We have just decided to start selling it to the public.
Excellent.
So
that's me.
That's you. Did you see that there was sort of a gap in the market for, this kind of, quality, this specific sort of stuff? I can say that there's a lot of very unique things that are part of your product, and we'll talk some of that. But it seems as though it's some of the best thought out. Like, obviously it comes from folks who are actively engaged in recovery. And like you said, your company does training as well. Chris does the training side of the business. But, is that, did you see that missing from the market?
So, yes, but it started off as, if we could back up, we can give you basically the seeds as to where it started.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am a Rover guy from way back, and
good to hear.
Not a fan of pretty Rovers. I like my Rovers with a lot of dents.
You need to come visit.
Yes. So I like to do events that are going to try my recovery needs.
Right.
Basically, it's got to be a test. And there was one day that I'm like, I really would like a new pulley block. And the best one on the market at that moment was the ARB. And it's like, jeepers, it's, a couple of punch pieces of sheet metal and a Delrin pulley, and it's not a lot to it. And I'm running a machine shop already. So, I've got 4 or 5 hours. Let's try and I'll design it up. And so I modeled it up in SolidWorks and made it. And we did this winter event that just, it was just Winch Fest, which was wonderful. Nothing but pulling line all day long. And it worked well. So, people seen it being used, and they're like, maybe you ought to sell them. And I'm like, It's always that thing. You make stuff for corporations every day, and it's difficult to sell to the public.
Right.
So, but I'm like, what the heck? I'll give it a go. So I did. And it happens that my first iterations, which my company is called Research and Recovery, it was basically just me designing pulley blocks. So they got in the right hands, and they happened to be put in front of Chris Cole, who was at an event down south. He and I had met in passing. He did not know my name. I didn't really know his name. I knew his Unimog. That was about it.
Right, sure.
And so he contacted me, and he said, I am training special forces, and they have asked me to develop a kit that will do all of the recovery needs from one kit for a specific size winch, for a 4,000 pound winch, a 10,000 pound winch, so on. Right. And he's like, I would like to work with you and develop a pulley block. So we hooked up, and we just started developing it. So my original rendition was very similar to what it is. We've refined it, which we did bronze bushings. It's a manganese bronze, so it's very there's a lot of yield strength in there. And then we went to a harder axle, and we did some rifling inside the bushings. There's a lot going on in there that's very subtle that people wouldn't realize. And it's all developed around the needs of the soldiers and the environments that they were going to be in.
Right.
So we developed all the products specifically for the Special Forces, needs.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's kind of like, well, the kit kind of works for anybody and everybody. It's pricey, but it's all correctly sized, correctly rated. It's real. It's professional kit.
So these Special Forces requirements, how were those different, and what did they need that wasn't available on the market? Like what does, if there was a Crosby or something pulley block, what does that not have that they needed?
So Crosby makes a wonderful pulley block. They're quite heavy, and they also require lubrication. So where they were going in the silt and sand, lubrication attracts that silt very badly. So ours, with the rifling and the clearances as I put them and so on, you can submarine these things through a silt bed. And when they come out the other side, you can watch it. It's just like a water wheel just spraying sand out.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest one. It's
neat.
It's
That's super cool.
There's two, there's many aspects.
Yeah.
So the main one is the sand. That's an issue, because if you've ever had something with too tight a clearance with sand, them cheeks will just lock up.
That's right.
They're done.
Yep.
Throw the block away.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when you're carrying a whole bunch of armor already, another 30 pounds of pulley blocks is not what you need to have.
Right. Especially with a Humvee that has a motor from the 1980s. So
you got it. Yeah. That 6.2 diesel is not exactly quick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, are these primarily for use with synthetic line or steel cable or both?
We have designed this specifically for synthetics. This is the first system that was ever designed to be specifically synthetic.
Okay, cool.
We basically took a big gamble and said, we're going to disregard metal cable, wire rope, and just go the synthetic way, because that we felt was the future. And I still believe that. There's still a few holdouts, but you're seeing it more and more. You're seeing more like the towing industry and that kind of stuff, embracing synthetics. I'm hearing the only real holdout, and I totally agree with it, is the hot shots and stuff like that.
Oh, sure, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Synthetics in a forest fire, not a good idea.
It's not fire fireproof.
So,
right.
So I don't think we're ever going to venture into that one.
Sure.
What about forestry? How I could see kind of both ways with the forestry stuff.
So we've heard there is a university out west, and I don't know if it was Oregon. They actually did testing, and don't do that university name, but they had done testing with their forestry program, and they found a huge benefit to going to synthetic. I personally use it on my forestry projects, clearing land and stuff like that. It's really nice pulling that around instead of a chain. So, So the other aspect, if we go back to the original, is the sizing of the actual shackle mount into it.
Okay.
Does is when you have people in the heat of the moment, and the people it was designed for, they're in the heat of the moment.
That's right. Yeah.
Bad stuff's going on while they're trying to do that. You make it so they can't mess up and get hurt. So you can't load a screw pin bow shackle incorrectly. It's going to be orientated correctly, so you can't get it offside and pinch a line or cut a line or spread it up. So we thought about that. We stuck to the name Safe, and we made it as safe as we possibly could. And if you don't like it,
there's lots of other options, right?
There's other options.
Right. Yeah, there's other options.
Do people ever say this is too safe? Please make something more dangerous.
You can't imagine the number of people that are so disappointed that they can't spin their screw pin bow shackle through their 360 degrees.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yes. Yeah, right.
And, I have to make the block so darn big, it's just not worth it. So I'll take that drawback and go a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I guess even if you consider that a drawback, I guess. I don't
can't-
think so, really.
I can't
don't
think
know
of
what
a-
you do
a-
matter, yeah.
Can't think of a pulley block that you're able to do that with, whether it's a ARB or a Crosby or a Warn. I'm pretty sure you can't do what you just described with any of those pulley blocks. So what do they I guess make their own. They can make their own, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. No, it's definitely well, and we have one of these pulley blocks here that you guys have provided to us, and I can say, like, just holding it and looking at it, I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, from a machining standpoint, just perfect. Everything lines up beautifully. The shiv is in perfect alignment, and the action on that bearing surface it's just fantastic. And it isn't that I mean, this is a big piece of kit, relatively speaking, and it is not heavy, and it's really nice.
The pulley, the shiv itself, is it steel or aluminum?
It's acetal.
Acetal. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't have one here in the studio to check out.
That is the 20K pulley block.
Yeah.
And that is acetal. The 30K pulley block, which we put in the extreme kit so you can do Spanish Burton riggings and stuff like that, has an aluminum pulley, and that has a bronze rifled sleeve, and then it has acetal pucks, like a puck clutch.
Okay, yeah.
That ride, that gives it about a 15 thousandths gap between the cheeks and the pulley, and that's just acetal that's riding on the aluminum. And that one, the action is really nice as well.
And from a material standpoint, something like acetal, how is that different from, like a Delron or something that you'll find?
It's exactly what Delron is.
It is Delron. Okay.
Delron is the copyrighted trade name for DuPont.
I see.
I think it's DuPont that owns.
Oh yeah, and I see there's actually these little channels along the edge of the shiv here, which is must have been what you're talking about, where that's gonna eject whatever might have made its way down. And, oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, the big thing that we had found was when sand gets in there, not if it gets in there, it's going to get in there. Yeah. It has to have a way to eject, so the pulley doesn't need to make a 360-degree move before that sand finds a little groove to drop in and just falls away and just frees up again.
Right.
So we put four grooves on either side of the pulley so that it only has to turn 90 degrees to find a way out.
And these snap rings on either side of this center shaft, I mean, I guess you don't need to service it, right? There's no lubrication or anything in here.
Correct.
So there'd be no reason to disassemble it, because it's essentially a lifetime, sort of non-service, right? It's just
is serviceable though.
Right. So is that in a case
but
where you'd have to maybe replace parts or something because you'd maybe damaged it or something? But
yeah. If you loaned it to somebody and they put wire rope on it and you didn't like the look of the pulley or something, you could do that. It'll run on it. I've actually brake tested them with wire rope on it. It worked. It broke at the same point, whether synthetic or wire.
So, okay, great. Yeah.
Here's a question. I noticed that you've got like a nice radius around the shackle pin hole there.
Yes.
Is this designed only to work with the bow shackle, or is that for non-chafing on the line or a soft shackle or something?
It is meant to run with a soft shackle.
Okay.
But
I have one of your soft shackles here as well.
It will accept a screw pin bow shackle.
Right.
I see.
Right, which is very cool. Well, actually, that's a great segue over to the soft shackle. You guys make a full line of soft rigging materials as well, not the least of which is one of your soft shackles that I have here. What I love that all of your stuff is tagged with its material strength limits and its working load limit, everything just like you would in a professional overhead rigging situation. Everything's marked, and you have confidence in what exactly this thing has been tested to, which, if you buy a soft shackle off Amazon, you definitely don't get that. But also something I noticed that is super cool is that not only are the wear points on your shackle, coated in this sort of rubber-like material, but I didn't realize, and looking at your little tag at first, that's actually also happens to be in the weighting points of this shackle. So it sort of lets you know where you should be attaching to this, so you don't have somebody, trying to pull it apart like that or something. That's really cool. Like, where did that idea come from?
He already said that. It was safety.
Oh, safety, right? Safety, yeah.
Yeah. Again, this is all we have to remember, the general audience for this, people in the heat of the moment.
Right.
With bad things going on around them.
Right.
And if you can give them just them little marks,
right,
they are more likely to get it correct,
right,
without having to think about it.
Well, that's
it's tricky because you want it to be high visibility, but maybe if you're getting shot at, you don't.
Well, here's the thing: at that moment in time, people probably know you're there already.
As your MRAP is stuck in the mud. Yeah, exactly. You want to... Yeah. No, these are great. I mean, I have to say, like, the quality is just, like, it's out of control. It's so good.
We don't deserve this.
Looks good. Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, exactly. We're going to have to return this. But, then another really cool piece that this is sort of unique and maybe completely unique to you is this X-Lock tool. So tell us a little bit about this. It sort of looks like a donut with rabbit ears on it, made completely out of aluminum and bead blasted to be, nice to work with and everything. And again, a 20,000 pound working load limit. What's the sort of practical use of this X-Lock?
So that is designed to shorten winch lines.
Okay. Yeah.
So as you had the aluminum stick in your hand earlier, going on camera.
Yeah.
That is the old method, which we call the daisy chain. And some people found it difficult to remember how to do the daisy chain.
Okay, yeah.
It's one of them things where you have to practice it a lot in order to really put it to memory.
Mm-hmm.
So the daisy chain is a tried and true method. It works well if you have the moment to take to do it correctly. It is a perfect scenario for shortening a winch line.
Right.
And we still use it in certain aspects. We like to use it on high lift jacks because we can shorten it a little more. We can with the X-Lock.
Right.
But what we had was, case in point, we had a training occurrence where somebody was using the line lock, and they actually had when they went around the stick, they actually got the lines crossed and they were not tight. And what happened was when the line went tight, it actually ran the lines and cut the line. So, our customer came to us and said, we would like you to design something to alleviate this occurrence from happening
Potential
again.
For that. Right, yeah.
So that's when I get the call from Chris, and he's like, we got to figure out something. He's like, they've asked us to do it. Let's figure something out. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started throwing a lot of spaghetti against the wall. There's a lot of parts that didn't work downstairs. And so that was something that I designed, and I wasn't real sure how it was going to work. And I just believed this shape was going to function. Let me just see if we can lock it.
Yeah.
And I did one, I 3D printed one, and it's like, okay, I think this might function. Okay. So then I was like, okay, I'll machine one. And I played around with it myself, and I'm like, I think this is going to function. And so I sent a couple of prototypes off to him, and he played with it with his military guys, and they approved it. And we just started making them, and it's now patented. And now it has many uses. Right. You give a bunch of special forces guys a toy like that, they will figure out so many different ways to play with it.
Sure.
So so now the primary use is shortening winch lines. The next use that we use it for is redirecting. So where you would normally put, two lines, one line across between two trees or two anchor points, and then you would put a pulley block in, and you would actually slide that up and down the line to change your angle of pull onto a truck. We can now, so the pulley block will actually find the lowest point in that line. So it won't stay in a static position. It is a fully functioning, movable. It changes with the vehicle moving and so on. So now we can actually use the X-Lock in place of the pulley block. So we can lock that in place on that line, and we can just slide it up to that position, hook a soft shackle through, put a pulley block on it, and pull off from that, or just put a winch line off from it. So we use it for that. We can use it for an X-bridle extraction. We can belay vehicles with it that are dead down a hill. So obviously there's some hills that you just don't want to go down, especially if you're in a dead vehicle. So if you got enough people, you can actually belay a dead vehicle over a hill. There's a multitude of uses. It's crazy, actually.
So, talk to us a little bit more about your involvement with Land Rovers. You have kind of mentioned that you're a Rover guy. How did that start? And by extension, how did that turn into recovery guy? And a follow-up question, talk to us about winches. What should we be looking for there?
Yeah.
Okay. So early life, I grew up in a very rural community. I still live in a rural community. It used to be more dairy farmers than it is now. The small dairy farmers are few and far between. But you live out in the middle of nowhere. You have to entertain yourself, and usually that has something to do with a motorized vehicle. Breaking a few bones,
sure.
That kind of thing, and that's okay. So you always start off life that way, and I got into racing motocross, which was great for about a decade, and then too many broken bones. The wife was like, maybe it's time to consider retirement on this. So I did that and went into road racing motorcycles, which was fun. It's beyond my comfort level for spending of money. Let's just say that. After 2 seasons,
absolutely.
it's like, yep, I think that's enough. A lot of fun. But very expensive.
Yeah.
So from there, I'd always had off-road vehicles and that kind of thing. And I had found online this 1981 Series 3 Land Rover out it was in Colorado. I forget. It was a Unimog dealer out there that had one. And it was one that he purchased in the UK and just put it in a container and figured, the price was right. Let's see if I can pedal this on the shores. And I was his Huckleberry. So I bought it. And this was probably, I would say, 07, I think. Something like yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right
yeah.
on.
Okay.
So it's just a 2 1/4 naturally aspirated diesel.
Fantastic.
The woman that owned it was an amateur archaeologist, so it spent most of its time in North Africa. And it's a fun little ride. His name is Wurzel, and she had.
You still have this vehicle. It sounds like
No, the wife that he will never leave. Yeah. So,
for sure. For sure.
He has a crusty frame, and it was proven that she had the stickers and. There was service stickers from Agadir, and there's some other stuff still on the inside that are there. And when I had to replace the front frame horns, when I cut them off, when all the silk came out, it's like, yep, he was in Africa. That's definitely not UK mud.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
You're responsible for some kind of infestation, fucking beetle or something. Or yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
listen, we've been there. I mean, yeah, exactly.
That's my fault.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
anyways,
for sure.
so he was, he's fun. He's a great truck. Slow. It was my daily driver for 3 years straight. So, and then one day the wife came home and she's like, I seen a D1 down in the next town.
Yeah.
And I'm that guy that buys things cheap.
I
believe that I was put on this earth capable enough to fix junk. So that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to have new vehicle. So that's what I do is I fix junk. And bought that. And it's like, okay, this is way too soccer mom for me. So we started doing wood stuff with it, and and then I found out about an event that was local to me, and I had fun at it. I know a lot of people that had fun at it, but it may rile some feathers of some people. It was the Vermont Overland Trophy. So I did that, I think 5 years with that truck, and 4 years with that truck, and the last year that I did it was with my Classic. So. Cool. So I have 2 Range Rover Classics as well. So
they always travel in pairs. Yeah, you can't just have one. You need to.
That's the infestation right there. That's So
that's great. You got one of each. That's fantastic.
Well, the D1 is gone after the 5th time that the chassis broke on that one. There was no more welding it. So he was gone. But all the good parts came off from that and went into the Classic. So.
Nice. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And are there other Land Rovers in the fleet currently, or that you're looking at future?
Not at the moment. By 92 Classic, I'm torn as to what to do with that. Because that one of those wonderful Sully Hill wiring issues that decided to make it come alight at the drive-through one day. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When flames
releasing the magic
so
crispy.
Yeah.
I saved the truck, but the wiring is about 50 pounds of copper
Yeah.
out the side of it. And I'm trying to decide what to do with that. And unfortunately, it was a California truck. So up here, they're quite precious. So I can't bring myself to get rid of it. But at the same time, I'm not sure what that's going to do. So it might get really extreme, or it might be a body donor for my 94, which is a Virginia truck, but it's been through a few battles. So yeah, that one's the 94 has an 8274 hanging off the front.
Nice.
And
That brings us to my previous question, which is tell us a little bit about your winch preferences.
I really enjoy the 8274s.
Right on.
I like the free spool on them. When you have them adjusted in the chassis correctly, the free spool is really good. You can get them out of whack and they will pull hard, but the free spool is good in those. For a little quick, that's okay with me. You know.
Yeah.
Have you used a PTO winch on your series? Maybe
I have not.
The PTO winch in the Land Rover application is that it runs through the transmission.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's driven off the transmission, kind of bypassing this, even though it attaches to the transfer case.
Right.
So what's neat about that is you can run it in each gear. So it's a 4-speed winch with reverse, which is really cool. So it can be quite fast.
Interesting.
For spooling in cable.
Okay.
Or quite slow for no incremental
That's cool.
control. Yeah. Plus, they never, ever, ever get hot. You know, they just
it's just it's like it would take, you'd have to be pulling that thing up a dam, and even then it does totally tighten. So speaking of pulling up a dam or pulling out of a dam, you don't just have the physical hardware, which is, like we said, we can't say enough amazing things about the physical hardware, but you guys have an app.
Yes.
And I think the most fun thing about this app is that you can sort of give it the scenario that you're in, give it the variables that you have, and it will give you a safe plan for extracting your vehicle. So where did that idea come from? And, maybe just talk a little bit about the app.
So the app is Chris's brainchild, period. And where this came from was he would have to do all the math that app does for each recovery. And again, it was a need for for our customers for that to be developed. So he spent a lot of time over many years developing that app. And it's one of them unknown things that it's probably the most important piece of kit that you could have on your vehicle if you have a winch on it.
I 100% agree. I think that's true. Yeah, you don't necessarily need a winch.
Without a winch.
I think you honestly just download it and play with it, even if you don't regularly do any recovery. It's a great learning tool. It's a good teaching tool. And I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but I would ask it how to get out of lava, because that's a fun Easter egg. And you can I think you really see humor that you and Chris bring to the whole thing in there. Where do you get the app? You could just go to the App Store. It's an Android. It's a Apple OS or other. Okay.
Yep. Or you can go to Safe-Xtract.com and there's a link to download the app there. But Apple and Android both have.
Fantastic.
It's right there, ready to go.
And it all runs locally, right? You don't actually need to be connected to the internet in order to use it.
That is correct. It's so huge because I'm never where I have internet.
No, of course not. You're definitely nowhere near the internet, and you're not setting up your Starlink in the middle of a mud pit. So the hardware, where do Land Rover people go to find your kits and your recovery rope and your shivs and all that sort of business?
So we have partnered with Rovers North for the Land Rover North America distributorship. We've been working with them for a couple years now. I've known Mark for more than a couple years now because, he has some.
Well, you're in the neighborhood there.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Makes sense.
I drive to get my parts. Let's put it that way. It's a good, a good afternoon trip. So, but, and I know some of his guys as well, Zach, and we go way back. We've events together and so on. But so we worked with Rovers North, and we've agreed that they have the over-the-counter market. And we're actually working now. We're going down a different road, which is with Ralph Sarek, because he's building some really nice rigs, and we feel that it would be a good friendship to start
100%.
because we believe that his customers will benefit from the option to have this full kit offered with their rig build.
Right.
You know, he's putting some really nice Red Winch products on the front of the vehicles.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
to be able to offer a full-on kit that you basically, once you have the kit in the app, you can figure out how to rig that winch and recover yourself.
You can go
Everything from the
you can
kit.
go with that,
So
yeah. Well, that's really awesome. I mean, and I have to say, like, you know, and we've said it a bunch of times here, but I really can't overstate, you know, just the quality level that you put into things. You know, we in the film industry have some specialty sort of material for flying people, you know, pulling people up on cables and things. Matt Sweeney is a gentleman that does that work here. And, you know, these specialty manufacturers that really are obviously from the, you know, use case that they're building things for. You cannot overstate the value of, you know, having real experts like yourself and like Chris out there in the field, you know, having questions being asked and then you making the thing to answer that question. You can really tell. And it's really, I have to commend you that it's great stuff. And the app, again, it's fantastic. You know, it's like a really great tool. Everybody should get that. There's no reason not to get the, you know, the app for
whether
sure.
you run our gear or not, get the app. You have a trainer in your pocket, and that's all there is to it. There is a trainer in your pocket at that point.
Well, at this point, Jim, we're coming close to the end of the show, but we can't, of course, let anyone go without running the world-famous gauntlet that is the Ike Goss lightning round questions.
Uh-oh.
This will test your mettle and will really give us a real good inclination on not just your rover preference, but your recovery preference.
Yeah, you know, we gotta test these bona fides. So we got a few short questions and just some gut response answers. You know, I think you'll do well on this one. Tell me when you're ready. We'll get started.
I'm not ready, but let's go.
All right, I like it. Coil springs versus leaf springs.
Coils.
Ooh. Spur gear versus planetary winches.
Spur.
Synthetic versus cable. I think we know this.
Synthetic.
Warren versus super winch.
The 8274 I like.
All right,
the pride and joy of Oregon. Yeah,
that's a sticky scenario right at the moment. So
sticky. All right, put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Bronze green or sand glow yellow.
Bronze green.
Ooh, good call.
Nice. Classic color.
And what's the best way to get gear oil out of your underpants?
Throw them away.
Throw them away. Yeah, that's
Solid.
a popular answer. Yeah, popular
Solid.
answer.
Perfect score. Well done.
Well done, sir. And hey, thank you again, Jim, for joining us. This was fantastic. This can't be the only time that you are on the show. We have to get you back. We only feel like we just barely scratched the surface here. There's still more to talk about. You know, the I4W DTA. We didn't even talk about it. We'd love to have you and Chris on at the same time. I think there's probably a lot of great stories that would come out of that. So we're going to definitely do that more in the future. But you know, until then, definitely go and check out the Safe-Xtract website. Head over to Rovers North and stock up on all the gear. And if you haven't already downloaded the app, definitely do that. So thanks.
Waiting for the capstan winch package to come out.
So am I. They just look so good.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. All right, well, hey Jim, thanks again. We really appreciate it, and looking forward to chatting again in the future.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Be safe.
All right. Hey, it was great having Jim. I really love that guy. He is not just obviously a very smart engineer and a very, very capable machinist if you look at the quality of these products, but just a fun guy and a longtime Rover enthusiast.
Seems unassuming at first, and then he's like, oh yeah, I was doing motorcycle road racing and I run a CNC machine shop and blah, blah, blah. Seems like a very accomplished, smart guy. Good
very,
guy to have on the
very
trail.
accomplished. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. It is interesting. It is interesting that, you know, you find a Rover enthusiast, you know, you look under enough rocks and there you go. And they're always doing something really incredible. And this stuff certainly is incredible. So yeah, again, head on over, get that app because man, it's fun just to play around with it. Like putting yourself into insane scenarios and seeing how much leverage you have on your winch or how much of this or that. It's fantastic. It's really a lot of fun. And like I said, definitely ask it how to get out of lava. That's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, it's been a slice and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you soon.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Beres, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Beres. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.